Rice's Medical Center, located in Houston, is the largest medical complex in the world, comprising a sprawling network of hospitals, research institutions, and medical schools. As a hub of innovation and patient care, the Medical Center is an attractive site for providers, educators, leaders, and students. Right across the street is Rice University, a small private institution that ranks consistently in the U.S. News Top 20. With a strong faculty of innovators, scientists, and educators, Rice University offers opportunities across countless disciplines. The influence of the TMC on Rice's academic community is profound. A recent report demonstrated that about 40% of incoming students are self-declared as pre-med. Rice's access to medical and research opportunities, rigorous curricula in STEM, and a widespread network of alumni in the healthcare industry all contribute to its growing pre-med culture. Although the idea of helping patients as a physician appeals to many people, there is a deeper underlying problem influencing students' career choices. While it isn't specific to medicine or the healthcare industry, burnout is becoming increasingly more common among both current and aspiring doctors. For instance, 30 to 40% of incoming students at Rice indicate an interest in pre-health studies, but only around 200 students end up applying to medical school each cycle. But what is burnout? Burnout is a state of emotional, mental, and often physical exhaustion caused by prolonged or repeated stress. It can lead to feelings of detachment, cynicism, and a sense of ineffectiveness or a lack of accomplishment. In the context of healthcare professionals, burnout is often associated with the demanding nature of their work, including long hours, high-pressure situations, and emotional strain from dealing with patient suffering. In 2018, a large systematic review measuring the prevalence of burnout in physicians found that 20 to 40% of physicians were experiencing severe emotional exhaustion, and in 2021, that number increased to 62 to 72% of all healthcare workers. Among practicing physicians, the suicide rate is double the rate in the general population. In the US, approximately one physician dies by suicide every day. Thus, each year we lose to suicide about the number of graduates from 2 medical schools. Younger workers, particularly those at the beginning of their careers, have been hit the hardest. According to a study performed by the Hetchinger Report, there's been a growing trend in burnout symptoms experienced by college students. More so, Gen Z adults ages 18 to 23 reported significantly higher stress levels than other generations, demonstrating the gravity of the current burnout epidemic. Furthermore, a study of over 2,000 UCSD undergraduates found that pre-medical students reported increased depression severity and emotional exhaustion. Given these facts, it makes sense that the accumulation of stress throughout the years of schooling results in a fatigued medical workforce. Although physician burnout has been well documented, there is a lack of research and a knowledge gap concerning burnout within undergraduate students. In this documentary, we delve into the lives of pre-medical students within our own hedges, exploring the pressures and challenges that they face and the impact of their workload on their own health and well-being. Elisa Morales is the Assistant Director of Wellbeing Programs and Education with the Rice Wellbeing and Counseling Center. We met up with her to learn more about burnout and Rice students.
Burnout is really that feeling of exhaustion when you're really stressed for just an extended period of time. So when stress is not managed or mismanaged, it can lead to this thing called burnout, which manifests in all these different ways. It can be cognitive, where you're not able to think or remember things as well. It can be physical, where I see students maybe with more headaches, more stomach aches, or even more exhaustion. And it can manifest in our work, right? It might be something where we're not getting as much fulfillment in our work, we don't want to do it, or we just can't find the motivation. The culture I see at Rice affecting pre-med students the most is the same culture that I see affecting most students here at Rice. We've got this idea of this culture of busyness. I think it affects pre-meds twofold. The pre-med students that I've worked with in the past and now very often report the endless list of things that they have to do, right? So they've got their application documents all ready to go by the time they're 2 weeks into their freshman year. So with the academic planning, the MCAT studying, the service work, the research, the whatever else it is that Rice pre-meds have to do on top of being a college student, right? So they're also balancing friends and family and living on their own for the first time, financial responsibilities they've never had before, and also trying to have a little fun along the way. I see the culture at Rice, especially with pre-meds, also one of very much comparison. Comparison adds into the burnout because it looks like it feels sometimes like students are always looking over their shoulder to make sure they're doing as much as everyone else is. Not only does that remove parts of the joy of being in college and celebrating our own success, but it puts even more stress on already extremely high achieving, very capable students. The skills that students are building right now as far as their study skills are the same ones that they'll take into medical school with them. And the same is true for the stress management skills that they take. So when they work under chronic burnout for 3 to 4 years, they take all of that stress and all of that burnout with them. So the more that they can learn now into how to manage their stress, the more they'll take with them into medical school and beyond.
Alice is a third-year pre-med who is majoring in bioengineering and works as an EMT for Rice EMS. We followed her around to get a better idea of how burnout presents itself from a pre-med student's perspective.
There's like a few different reasons that I do it. I think medical device testing is like just really interesting to me in general. I just generally really like exploring different things, and I feel like medicine to me isn't just about like going into the hospital and like shadowing doctors or anything. I feel like to me it's also like exploring like the things that we can do as engineers to kind of help, and kind of like the interdisciplinary like differences and like intersections between medicine and like biology as well as engineering.
Her team was kind enough to let us watch them in action as they finish up their semester project.
In general, I'm taking a lot more engineering classes, which like I feel like there is a very similar stress level between engineering classes and pre-med classes. I'm here about like 10 hours a week. It's a lot more now just because our showcase, the engineering showcase is coming up in like 1 to 2 weeks. So we're kind of all scrambling to finish our prototypes and make sure everything works and get our data. A lot of the times it is kind of difficult to balance stuff, especially with like a really busy team. I do feel like there is a little bit of external pressure just with the amount of like pre-meds there are around me, and like people just doing so many different things at once. But also what really does keep me going is like the internal motivation to kind of explore different things.
We also had the opportunity to shadow Alice during her REM shift to better understand the challenges of balancing her responsibilities as a healthcare provider and as a student.
I think as a pre-med student at Rice, as well as an engineering student and an EMT at Rice, it's really difficult to fight the burnout and all of the academic burdens that come with everything. I'm constantly having to do stuff for my classes and study for exams and stuff, as well as take many hours of shifts every single week for EMS. I feel like I have to overload myself with a lot of extracurriculars and do as much as I can for my med school applications, as well as study for my MCAT.
Sometimes it doesn't always work out, and students realize that working in medicine or a similar healthcare field just isn't the best fit for them. We had a chance to sit down with Ella, a senior planning to attend law school in the fall who originally came into Rice as a pre-med.
I definitely did experience burnout. It's an incredibly frustrating and demoralizing experience to try and continue to pursue a major that maybe you know subconsciously isn't right for you and that you're not succeeding in because it's just not the path you're supposed to be on, and the workload is just extreme. I did feel supported. My professors generally tended to be reachable and more accommodating than I expected, seeing as most of the classes have 200 plus students, so I did find that those resources were available. So I'd always thought that I wanted to be a doctor. I came from a long line of healthcare professionals and doctors, But I realized in my freshman and sophomore year that it maybe really wasn't for me when the classes were continually so challenging for me. I didn't have any passion for them. I didn't want to work on the material, and it felt like the effort that I did put in wasn't really seeing any rewards because um, it was just not right for me. And I finally made my decision to change from pre-med to pre-law during the first semester of my junior year. I would say that I had a lot less time for extracurriculars as a pre-med because the course load is just extreme and the material is really challenging. I did research in a lab here on campus. I did find that finding opportunities that accept undergrads and that aren't full already is kind of challenging. And then as a pre-law student, Rice isn't really known for being a pre-law school, so there's a lot of opportunities and maybe not as many people taking advantage of them. I did 2 internships through the Politics, Law, and Social Thought department, and I worked at a local nonprofit for a full calendar year, so I definitely had more time to engage in extracurriculars.
Although the academic rigor and the high concentration of ambitious, high-achieving students at Rice results in frequent burnout, particularly among students entering professional fields like pre-meds, they are not alone in facing these challenges. During our interview with Elisa, she informed us of a few of the important resources that are available for students to use.
So some of the resources that we have available for pre-meds at Rice include the Wellbeing Center, which offers stress management assistance, time management assistance, things like nutrition, and we can go over just kind of what maybe is bothering you and figure out how to best manage what's happening in your personal life. We also have RHAs who are a really, really helpful resource and my personal favorite. So Rice Health Advisors, or RHAs, are students at your college who are trained for an entire semester in mental health topics. And we talk all about burnout, stress management, self-care, and other mental health and well-being topics. So they're people just like you who understand what it is to be a Rice student, and a lot of them are pre-meds too. So they have just a little extra training and can help you navigate what it is that you're experiencing. I think my 3 tips for managing burnout are going to start with number 1, take care of the basics. It's eating, it's sleeping, and it's moving. All the things that you need to survive, you also need to manage your stress. Number 2 is going to be to really build and stick to your social network. So that means really involving yourselves in your colleges, being with your friends, and also finding other pre-med students because sometimes you just need to vent. And my last one, number 3, is when it all does get to be too much, try to understand that it really is okay to take a little break and not be productive for even just an hour at a time.
During our interview with Alice, she also spoke about some of the support she received during her struggles with burnout.
There's generally a lot of support, like for pre-meds in general. The environment of Rice is really collaborative. We're always able to work together and figure things out, which is really nice. I'm really thankful to say that a lot of my professors are really understanding about this. So when I ask for extensions and ask for help in office hours and stuff, they're very willing to give me whatever I need just to account for any emergencies or any external factors. But I think it would be really nice if kind of the OAA would give us more support on our classes just by making sure we're on track with everything and on track to graduate in time. Because I know a lot of pre-meds struggle with making sure that they have all their requirements in, especially if they're not doing a more typical pre-med major. I feel like a lot of freshmen coming into college feel the pressure to do as many things as they possibly can and spread themselves out as thin as possible. And as cliche as it might sound, I feel like my best advice for a freshman would probably just to follow your interests. It doesn't just have to be something that's med school related. It doesn't have to be something that necessarily will improve your med school apps by a lot. But I think pursuing what you're most interested in is what's gonna get you the furthest in your career.
We caught up with Emily, a Rice alum at McGovern Medical School, who was able to spare a moment in her busy schedule to speak with us.
Yeah, I experienced burnout a lot in undergrad, mainly because I think I overloaded myself with too many activities. It was just a lot. Definitely felt very low energy and felt like I didn't want to go out and hang out with my friends. I think now I would say that I only take on as much as I can, and I try to only do activities that I'm actually passionate about instead of like checking the pre-med requirement checkboxes. So in doing so, I now have a lot more free time to do my hobbies and take time for myself. I think med school is a lot more chill than undergrad, at least compared to Rice. Um, I think because medical school is a lot more focused, I can just plan out how I want to spend my time. I generally just front load all my studying so then I can kind of chill and do research or do my hobbies. Yeah, there's definitely still burnout in medical school because it gets kind of repetitive. Sometimes there's like so much content to review. Like you need to learn everything, basically everything about like a whole system every few weeks. There's sometimes that I just don't want to do my flashcards anymore, and I feel like it's kind of pointless. How I combat that is that I choose more actively to take breaks and to spend certain amount of time during the day for myself. Compared to undergrad, I have more coping mechanisms instead of just working through it. They do definitely try to support us, but I think the majority of it is like self-learned outside of medical school. And I think that's like really important too because I feel like medical school is not even the hardest part of the whole medical journey. It's like kind of preparing you for residency. Different people have different kinds of coping mechanisms, so spending time to find what works for you will benefit you. So I graduated Rice in 2.5 years. I really grinded out my med school requirements and my like MCAT and like the extracurriculars. I do sometimes have some regret because I see my friends having so much fun. But I think overall I don't regret going to medical school earlier because I think as a pre-med, it's you see the periphery of it all, but I think in med school you can really see what it's actually like to work in medicine. Going to med school was the right calling for me. I think it really suits me and I feel like, yeah, no regrets.
In making this film, we found that burnout seems to be an almost unavoidable part of the path to becoming a physician. However, it seems as though the students and faculty at Rice are making conscious efforts to support each other and find ways to combat this growing problem in almost every field. We look forward to seeing what future efforts will be made to optimize the medical education process for better student health and well-being.